A very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you here on the news at 6, where we get you the day's top stories, what's developing at the moment. And today, of course, we're going to be talking about crucial dinner party being hosted here in the capital. I'm Tracy Shilshi. We'll get you details of that in a bit. But first, the headlines. Greece avoids exit from Eurozone, gets a third bailout after Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras agrees to implement tough reforms. Despite a joint statement released by India and Pakistan in UFA and Russia, Pakistani National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz says no dialogue without Kashmir, says more evidence is needed to speed up the 2611 trial. CBI takes charge of the Vyapam case probe. Team reaches Bhopal to complete the preliminary assessment of the investigation. And ahead of Parliament's monsoon session, opposition parties get a chance to exhibit unity at Sonia Gandhi's Iftar Party tonight. Our top story this evening, Eurozone leaders have agreed to offer Greece a third bailout after marathon talks in Brussels overnight. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras agreed to tough reforms in return for a 3-year bailout worth up to 86 billion euros. Here are the details on how Greece avoided an exit from the EU.
After days of uncertainty over its future in the Eurozone, Greece finally managed to get another bailout deal, its third in 5 months. After more than 17 hours of talks on reforms and more financial aid for the near-bankrupt country, European leaders unanimously agreed to lend more money to Greece.
Leaders have agreed in principle that they are ready to start negotiations on an ESM program, which in other words means continued support for Greece. There are strict conditions to be met. The approval of several national parliaments, including the Greek parliament, is now needed for negotiations on an ESM program to formally begin. Nevertheless, the decision gives Greece a chance to get back on track with the support of European partners.
Here's a look at some of the key points of the deal. Greek assets worth up to 50 billion euros will be transferred to a new fund. Talks will begin immediately on bridging finance to avert the collapse of Greece's banking system and help cover its debt repayments this summer. Greece has been promised discussions on restructuring its debts. The Eurogroup is ready to consider extending the maturity on Greek loans. The Greek parliament will also have to approve the deal. It will have to start passing legislation to implement the agreed measures.
Wir verweisen auch zu Beginn unseres gemeinsamen Papiers darauf, dass Vertrauen wieder aufgebaut werden muss, dass die griechischen Verantwortlichen auch Verantwortung für das, was wir jetzt hier politisch beschlossen haben, übernehmen müssen, um das alles umsetzen zu können.
The terms imposed may put more pressure on Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras. He said the implementation of the agreement will be difficult.
Η απόφαση σήμερα κρατάει την Ελλάδα σε συνθήκες χρηματοπιστωτικής ευστάθειας, δίνει δυνατότητες ανάκαμψης, ταυτόχρονα όμως ξέραμε από πριν ότι θα είναι και μια συμφωνία που η υλοποίησή της
Tsipras will now have to rush swaths of legislation through Parliament this week to convince his 18 partners to release bridging funds to avert a state bankruptcy and just to begin negotiations on a 3-year loan. In a sign of how hard it may be for Tsipras to convince his own party to accept the deal, Labour Minister Panos Choulatis said the terms were unviable and would lead to new elections this year. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
All right, for more on this, we're joined by Harvey Singh, who's the editor of MoneyBasket.com, joining us in studio this evening. Harvey, give us a sense really of what went on through last night, because the Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, was really caught between the devil and the deep sea. And though he has agreed to the tough reforms, it's going to be quite tough as far as political and domestic unrest is concerned.
Yeah, actually, it was really a tough task, not only for the Greek Prime Minister, but other Eurozone partners also, and some creditors put very tough conditions for Greece to accept this thing for a bailout package, particularly on the reform side, that pension reforms and to increase the VAT and some other austerity measures. And you know that this party, this current Prime Minister of Greece, who is heading, actually came into the power particularly against this austerity measures, and is a leftist party.
Yes.
So it will be very tough for him to go, as he already said in his statement, that it is tough to implement, but there was no choice for Greece, as well as these other Eurozone partners were also not in the position to make a Grexit, because it would have been a contagion effect on Eurozone in future. So that's why they tried to do, but Germany put a very hard bargain to make Greece accept some tough conditions.
All right. Just give us a sense really on how, like you were pointing out, it has been tough even for the European Union, for the other leaders of the particular conglomerate, because, they've been looking at how markets have been reacting to their news. It's not just Asia, it's not just the US. Even European markets were quite volatile during this period of uncertainty, wondering whether Greece is going to exit the euro or not. Do you think even that was weighing on them to somehow try and work out a deal for Greece?
You know that usually all the markets works on sentiments, and if we look towards our Indian market, it doesn't have any big effect due to this Greece crisis, but sentiments were so negative, and other markets were also behaving like that.
Yes.
There were other kind of crises in China, but particularly in Europe, because a lot of banks were there involved in this debt crisis, and that is very high, up to 177% of the Greece GDP, and banks were involved there. So, and even this Eurozone is not growing at a very good pace. There are some crises in other countries also. So, growth is very low, and any kind of trigger of crisis would have worsened the situation. So, and other markets also look about the funds flow from different markets and banks and institutions. It would have been affected that.
All right. What next, of course, now for Greece? It does have to repay, if I'm correct, more than 7 billion euros to the ECB in July and August as well, before any bailout cash can be handed over. Do we see the worst being over now, or, is there uncertainty still?
Actually, it will depend a lot, because after this agreement, now Prime Minister has to go to the Parliament and will get approval a lot of legislations, and I think it is supposed to be done by Wednesday itself. It's a very short time is there. It's not a very big. I think there is not a lot of time with the Prime Minister, and maybe there will be some political development also there within his party and the Parliament, but he has to get it approved from the Parliament. And in the meantime, immediately after this agreement, some other creditors started talking about a bridge loan for that, so that by the time the package gets started rolling out, so in the meantime, Greek will have some money to repay, particularly as you said that Greek is supposed to pay a particular, I think it will need around $12 billion in the next few days itself. So that will be a big task. And after the approval, when Greece Parliament approves these legislations, then German Parliament will meet again, because one of the biggest creditor to this bailout package. So then German, although this Merkel said that it is not difficult to get the approval, but it will depend a lot of things in the next few days how the things are rolled out.
All right, Harvey Singh, thanks so much for joining us and breaking it down really for us to understand this complicated issue even further. Thank you so much for joining us. With that, of course, let's head on to more news. And India and Tajikistan have decided to intensify cooperation in combating terrorism, as well as in the spheres of defense and connectivity. During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, the two sides inked agreements on culture and human resource development. Tajikistan is the last stop for Modi, who is ending his 8-day trip to Central Asia.
मध्य एशियाई देशों में ताजिकिस्तान भारत के सबसे करीब है। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी और ताजिकिस्तान के राष्ट्रपति इमाम
All right, we seem to have a technical problem there with the story. We'll try and get that to you in a bit. But let's head on to more news. And a CBI team is in Bhopal and has taken charge of the Vyapam scam investigation. It will now make a preliminary assessment of the probe conducted so far by the Special Task Force of the Madhya Pradesh Police. The team also held talks with the state police officials and the High Court appointed special investigation team that has been monitoring the investigation on a day-to-day basis. As part of its Vyapam probe, The CBI will investigate the massive rigging of examinations for jobs and admission to various educational institutions conducted by the MP Professional Examination Board. It will also ascertain the number of cases needed to be registered by it. All right, now to a special focus to a dinner party being held in the capital tonight. Congress President Sonia Gandhi is throwing an Iftar party today. Coming ahead of the monsoon session of Parliament, the event is being seen as an attempt to muster opposition unity. All secular, non-National Democratic Alliance parties have been invited for tonight's dinner. Invited leaders include Samajwadi Party's Mulayam Singh Yadav, the BSP's Mayawati, Sharad Pawar from the JDU, Sitaram Yechuri from the CPIM, H.D. Deve Gowda from the JDS, IUML's E. Ahmed, Farooq Abdullah of the National Conference and Shudeep Bandhopadhyay of the TMC. BJP leaders have criticized this event, calling it an avoidable attempt to mix religion with politics.
कांग्रेस में ये परंपरा बहुत सालों से चली आ रही है कि हर धर्म, हर संप्रदाय, हर जाति और मजहब के लोगों के धर्म को, उनकी आस्था को पूरा सम्मान दिया जाए।
इस तरह के ये धार्मिक आयोजन होते हैं, इसको राजनीति से नहीं जोड़ना चाहिए, ना वहाँ पर राजनीति पर कोई चर्चा होती है। शरद यादव जी और नीतीश कुमार जी इसमें जरूर हिस्सा ले रहे हैं।
All right, for more on this, we're joined by correspondent Vishal Dahiya, who's in fact in the newsroom. Vishal, you know, whenever we have these iftar parties, we see all these political parties coming together. Politics, of course, always at the core of it, but this is one of those times where it's really, really crucial that these parties get together.
Well, yes, indeed, this can be termed as the most crucial coming together of all these, political parties, which also include some regional satraps as well. Now, the reason behind this is pretty simple. The Congress, that is the main opposition party, has been trying to, increase the momentum of its criticism and its attacks on the BJP as well as the BJP-led NDA government at the center. And this is being done as a part of the strategy because the monsoon session is not too far away, just around a week to go before the session actually begins. There are a number of issues which the main opposition party, Congress, whose president is hosting this iftar dinner, is hopeful that they will go ahead and be able to corner the government and the Prime Minister himself, starting from corruption cases against a few of the chief ministers of BJP-ruled states, also on the foreign policy issue with Pakistan, and then so on and so forth. Let's not forget the land acquisition and GST bill as well. But out here, the most important point is that with its dwindled numbers in Lok Sabha, that's just 44 MPs in the lower house, and though it's the largest party in the upper house, but then to corner the government, to seek an answer from them, to embarrass the ruling benches or the treasury benches, the Congress desperately needs the help of these smaller parties which form the opposition bloc. Now, officially they can be termed as non-BJP parties, but an interesting point out here is that in this particular iftar dinner, two very important leaders from this non-BJP bloc will be missing. They are not coming. They've been invited, but they've expressed their regrets. That's Lalu Prasad Yadav of the RJD and Mamta Banerjee of AITC, that's Trinamool Congress. Both of them will definitely send their representatives, but then them not being here is sort of, and specifically in case of Mamta Banerjee, her not being here in this particular iftar dinner would be, sort of a dampener for the spirits of the congressmen or the strategists of the Congress party, who would be busy preparing that, floor plan as to how to go ahead and corner the government, counter the government's arguments. So obviously, this iftar can be easily, as the leaders of the Congress party and others who are saying, can be easily termed as a social event. It's just a social event on the eve of a religious function. But then, with all these senior leaders from the opposition bloc being there, it definitely assumes importance as to whether or not they will have some dialogue amongst themselves, or they might decide that, okay, fine, we have met, now let's meet again maybe a few days later and devise a final strategy.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Vishal, thanks so much for joining us with those details there. Meanwhile, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, India and Tajikistan having decided to intensify cooperation in combating terrorism as well as defense connectivity. Let's take it through what went through today when Narendra Modi visited the country.
India and Tajikistan have pledged to further deepen their cooperation to fight the menace and agreed to step up defense ties besides boosting trade and investment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with Tajik President Emomali Rahmon on Monday. Modi said that both sides have agreed to jointly counter terrorism in the region.
We are both located in the proximity of the main source of terrorism. Combating terrorism and extremism has always been an important and productive area of cooperation. At a time of growing threat of terrorism, we have resolved to intensify our cooperation further.
Modi said both the nations were in talks to expand connectivity between them.
Connectivity is vital for realizing the full potential of trade and commerce between our countries. We agreed to promote the international North-South Transport Corridor, other connectivity initiatives.
The two sides also signed agreements on culture and human resources. The two leaders presided over the signing of the agreements after a round of delegation-level talks. According to the agreements, India will set up 37 computer labs in Tajik schools. The two sides also decided to set up closer economic ties.
We have talked our joint commission to meet soon and finalize a concrete roadmap to expand our trade and economic ties.
Later, Modi also unveiled a bust of Nobel laureate poet Rabindranath Tagore and gifted medicines to the India-Tajikistan Friendship Hospital during his visit. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With a quick break here, but still ahead, Indian security forces thwart yet another infiltration bid along the LOC in 24 hours, kills one suspected terrorist. Welcome back. Now, Pakistan has asked for more evidence and information from India on the 26/11 Mumbai attack case. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's advisor, Sartaj Aziz, said that they needed more proof to expedite the trial. It has also ruled out any talks without Kashmir issue on the agenda. All this barely 3 days after the two sides agreed to re-engage when Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with Sharif in Ufa.
On Monday, Pak PM's advisor and NSA Sartaj Aziz said Islamabad needs more evidence from India in the ongoing 26/11 trial. The statement comes 3 days after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Pak PM Nawaz Sharif met in Ufa and agreed to discuss ways to expedite the ongoing trial in Pakistan.
Mr. Nawaz Sharif also sought information on the progress made on the trial of Samjhota Express terrorist incident. If India now follows up this with the next step of seeking a formal dialogue, then I can assure you that no dialogue will take place unless Kashmir is on the agenda. So that is our clear position in that sense.
Though the External Affairs Ministry hasn't reacted yet, Aziz's remarks sparked strong reactions in Delhi, with opposition demanding clarifications from the government.
पाकिस्तान ने इसको समय बर्बाद करने का, जहां तक 26/11 के मुद्दे हैं, उसको सिर्फ इधर और उधर की बात करती है। जैसे कि मालूम है, अभी प्रधानमंत्री जी वहां से वापस आए, उन्होंने कहा कि अभी वॉइस सैंपल हम नहीं दे सकते।
Statements coming from others are possibly intended to address their domestic constituency, and as far as we understand, I think the discussions, engagements will largely happen on the lines of the joint statement.
On Sunday, 26/11 mastermind Zakir Rahman Lakhvi's lawyer ruled out a fresh petition seeking his voice sample in the Mumbai attacks case. He said such proof are not permissible in Pakistani courts. However, Special Public Prosecutor in 26/11 trial Ujjwal Nikam questioned the claim.
उस वक्त हमें ये कहा गया था कि नया एक जो कानून अभी आने वाला है पाकिस्तान, उसके तहत वॉइस सैंपल ले सकते हैं। अगर पाकिस्तान के नवाब शरीफ साहब एक कमिटमेंट करते हैं कि वॉइस सैंपल दे, तो पाकिस्तान में वो अमेंडमेंट क्यों नहीं लाएंगे?
Meanwhile, Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit said the conclusions should not be drawn on the matter before the two sides meet to discuss ways to speed up the trial, as was agreed during the Modi-Sharif talks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's get you some updates from across the country in Nationwide. Foiling an infiltration bid along the line of control, the army today killed one terrorist in the Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir. Troops guarding the LOC challenged the group of militants trying to infiltrate into the Indian territory, resulting in an encounter. This is the second day when a Pakistani infiltration attempt has been foiled. The Supreme Court today sought response of the Nithari serial killings case convict Surendra Kohli on a plea of the Uttar Pradesh government against the Allahabad High Court verdict that commuted his death penalty to lifetime earlier this year. Kohli was sentenced to death by a special CBI court in Ghaziabad on the 13th of February in 2009. The Supreme Court also today extended Italian Marine Massimiliano Lattore's stay in Italy on medical grounds by 6 months. The Apex Court has also issued a notice to the centre on a plea by Italy seeking international arbitration in the case. Italian Marines Lattore and Salvatore Gironi are accused of killing 2 Indian fishermen off the Kerala coast in February 2012. The monsoon session of the Maharashtra legislature got off to a noisy start today, with opposition members flaying the BJP-led government over apathy on loan waiver for farmers. The opposition members, led by the leaders of opposition in both houses, shouted slogans against the government at the entrance of the Vidhan Bhavan as soon as Chief Minister Fadnavis reached there. And finally, the Aviation Ministry today unveiled an indigenously developed satellite-based navigation system, GAGAN. It is expected to give a major boost to the Indian aviation navigation system. India is the only country, apart from the US, Japan and European nations, to boast of such a high-tech navigation system.
Civil Aviation Minister Ashok Gajapati Raju today launched the GPS-aided Geo-Augmented Navigation System, or GAGAN.
This advanced technology is known as GAGAN.
It has been jointly developed by Airports Authority of India and Indian Space Research Organisation at an estimated cost of 774 crore rupees.
Only covers civil aviation. It covers much more. So when will the ANCB? So I would suggest that let this capabilities at least be transmitted to the people, so that people can start thinking of how to utilize this asset which our country has.
At present, radio navigation aids are used for precision in landing and approaches at Indian airports. However, GAGAN will help improve efficiency, direct routes, increase fuel savings, significant cost savings due to withdrawal of ground aids, and reduce workload of flight crew and air traffic controllers. It will make it easier for aircraft movements to small airports which do not have navigation aids.
In India, when you test something, you can test anywhere in the world, because all type of terrains, it can be islands, it can be hills, it can be Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, or the Northern Himalayas, and the peaks, and where we have the snow cover, etc. That. And then type of a certification which goes from DGCA to and gives Airports Authority of India today. That means you can fly at all terrains with a lot of confidence.
However, the way ahead isn't that easy. Existing aircrafts would have to be retrofitted with the receivers in order to use GAGAN as a primary source of navigation. Until then, use of satellite-based navigation system in the country would be minimal. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.